Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, December 5th, and somehow the crypto markets decided to observe opposite day. We finally get a government report that isn't a dumpster fire. Core PCE comes in cooler than expected. Inflation is literally falling, and markets respond by saying, "Oh, that's nice. Sell everything." Fantastic. Wonderful. Totally normal behavior. But that's not even the wild part, because while the markets are melting down, Tom Lee is out here dropping more bullish predictions than Santa drops cookies. And every single video of him this week looks like he lost a wrestling match with a ceiling fan. 4 handles, 1 hairstyle, 0 survivors. And that's not all. Michael Saylor says Bitcoin is going to $20 trillion. Peter Schiff accidentally performs a funeral for gold on stage with CZ. Retail sentiment is swinging like a drunk pendulum, and Bitcoin dominance just decided it's the main character again. So yeah, today's show, it's loaded. Let's start with the man of the week, the legend, the bull, the guy whose hair forecasted a rate cut before the Fed did, Tom Lee. All right, big show today, folks. Huge. We're covering all of it on this Friday edition of the SENB Daily Brief. From Tom Lee's cosmic bull run predictions, to Saylor's trillion-dollar prophecy, to Peter Schiff accidentally hosting a memorial service for gold in Dubai. May it rest in melted pieces. But, and listen carefully, you're going to want to stay tuned all the way to the end of today's show, because we have a very special guest joining us. You may have seen her debut single, Stacking Sats, lighting up the timeline this week. That's right. Today, we're introducing the newest member of SENB Media, Ember Vale. And yes, we're even playing a clip from her brand new music video. So, grab your coffee, hit that like button, and let's jump straight into today's top story.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, let's start with the hottest man in crypto right now. And I don't mean looks, I mean temperature, because Tom Lee has been on an absolute heater this week. And apparently, so has his hair. Across 4 different headlines in the last 24 hours, Tom Lee has shown up predicting Bitcoin to 100,000 before year-end, Bitcoin possibly hitting a new all-time high, Ethereum ripping to $62,000 if it reaches 0.25 BTC, and that the 4-year cycle is dead and crypto is about to go parabolic. And in every single clip, his hair looks like he woke up, saw Bitcoin pumping, and sprinted straight to the stage. It's almost inspirational, like Einstein meets Binance. But jokes aside, here's the bigger point. Tom Lee isn't giving these takes as hype. He's backing them with macro data, liquidity models, ETF flows, and historical volatility compression. His argument is basically this. When institutional inflows are rising, retail is still asleep, and volatility is tightening. The next move is usually violent, upward. And the Ethereum call? Not crazy. Ether at 0.25 BTC sounds wild until you remember it's traded there before. So whether or not you buy the specific numbers, the momentum, the liquidity conditions, and the ETF flows are definitely leaning bullish. And hey, if he turns out to be right, we all promise to never question the hair again. In fact, we'll copy it. All right, next up, a major moment from the Dubai stage where Peter Schiff accidentally proved Bitcoin's biggest point for Bitcoiners. We'll talk about it next, after this.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, let's talk about one of the most unintentionally iconic moments in crypto history. And it happened yesterday in Dubai. Peter Schiff walks onto the Binance Blockchain Week stage holding a gold bar. Real gold guy moment. He lifts it up like Simba in The Lion King. And then CZ fires one simple question. Is it real? And Peter Schiff, the global ambassador of Gold is God, replies, I don't know. Brother, that's your whole brand. Now here's why this moment hit the crypto community like a thunderbolt. Gold, for 5,000 years, has been considered the ultimate hard money. But the London Bullion Market Association confirmed something uncomfortable. The only 100% guarantee way to verify gold is to melt it down, destroy it, to prove it. In 2025, we still need fire to tell if a metal is real. Meanwhile, Bitcoin verifies itself every 10 minutes, globally, instantly, mathematically. No labs, no experts, no trust. And the counterfeiting numbers? 5% to 10% of physical global gold markets are estimated to be fake or adulterated. Bars, vaults, supply chains, all built on trust. But Bitcoin requires trust in no one. It verifies itself. So when Peter Schiff, the world's loudest gold advocate, can't authenticate his own gold while holding it. It wasn't a debate. It was a monetary funeral. Bitcoin maximalists didn't even have to win an argument. Gold self-destructed on stage. All right, from funerals to forecasts, retail sentiment is swinging wildly, and every dip into fear lately has been a perfect bounce signal. Let's break down what's happening. Coming up next.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
Now let's talk about the emotional roller coaster known as retail sentiment, because the chart this morning, it looks like someone strapped the fear and greed index to a pogo stick. We've gone from greed to fear to greed and back to fear again in the span of, 3 trading sessions? Retail really said, I'm bullish. No, wait, I'm scared. Actually, I'm bullish again. Never mind, I sold everything. It's like watching someone date themselves. But here's the interesting part. Historically, and this chart lays it out perfectly, every time retail fear spikes, we've bounced. Every dip into the fear zone has lined up with a short-term bottom, especially during consolidation phases. So what's happening now? Why did the entire market nuke this morning even though the PCE inflation data came in cooler than expected? 3 reasons. Profit-taking after last week's rally, thin holiday liquidity, and automated trading systems reacting to volatility, not fundamentals. In other words, the machines are panicking, the humans are emotional, and the only species behaving normally is Bitcoin. And if you zoom out, nothing in the fundamentals has changed. ETF inflows, still rising. Macro inflation, cooling. Risk assets, volatile because they're supposed to be. Retail sentiment flipping doesn't tell us where the market should go. It tells us where the market went too far. So, let's break down what actually happened in the markets this morning, because the charts look like someone tripped over the sell button. Bitcoin dipped under 92,000, tagging the lower end of its short-term consolidation band. This is pretty normal when liquidity is thin and emotions are high. Despite PCE cooling off, Bitcoin still said, nah, let's ruin someone's Friday morning. Support sits around 90,000 to 91,000. Below that is the psychological 89K level. But fundamentals? Unchanged. Ethereum is still stuck in the 3K to 3.3K range, nothing broken. This move is more about market sentiment than Ethereum's actual outlook. Ether is basically the calm, responsible sibling. It drops, but politely. Solana took the hardest hit out of the majors, down around 3.5%. But this is classic Sol behavior. Big moves both directions. The Revolut integration remains a huge tailwind. Sol is volatile, but not weak. XRP dipped back toward the 2.15 to 2.2 support zone after its post-ETF excitement. But let's be honest, a 4% pullback after launching multiple ETFs is basically a coffee break. Bitcoin dominance ticking upward to 56%. It means the market is rotating into safety. People aren't exiting crypto, they're just consolidating into Bitcoin. Altcoins, yes, they're also red. No, they're not dead. Altcoins are just allergic to Fridays. We'll talk about Sen B in detail toward the end, because while the majors are panicking, Sen B is quietly doing something very interesting. So overall, red morning, thin liquidity, nothing catastrophic. Long weekend volatility meets delayed economic data. Not exactly the recipe for stability. All right, let's shift from retail panic to institutional prophecy, because Michael Saylor just gave one of the boldest interviews of his life. That's up next.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
Now, let's talk about a man who does not speak in millions, billions, or even trillions. A man who doesn't do hopium. He does inevitability. Michael Saylor was asked, again, where he sees Bitcoin going. And instead of giving a conservative, measured, polite answer, he delivered a number so big it caused 3 traditional economists to faint and 1 gold bug to vomit. Saylor says Bitcoin is on track to reach $20 trillion in market value within 4 to 8 years, and then $200 trillion within 20 years. Yes, with a T. No, that's not a typo. Yes, he is completely serious. His thesis comes down to something simple. Money migrates to the asset with the lowest risk of debasement, the highest credibility, the highest verifiability, and the strongest property rights. Saylor argues Bitcoin will swallow gold, sovereign wealth reserves, tech stocks, real estate monetary premiums, corporate treasuries, and eventually national balance sheets. And he says the United States should be the one owning it, not watching China or the Middle East accumulate the supply. Now look, you don't have to agree with his numbers. You don't even have to understand them. You just have to respect the confidence of a man predicting that Bitcoin's market cap will exceed the GDP of planet Earth. That level of conviction should come with a cape. But here's the real takeaway. Every cycle, Saylor zooms out further than anyone else. Everybody else focuses on the next candle. Saylor is focused on the next century. And whether Bitcoin goes to $200,000, $2 million, or $200 trillion, the narrative he's building is already reshaping institutional positioning. So look, Whether you think Saylor's $20 trillion target is destiny or just the world's most confident TED Talk, one thing is undeniable. He has never once flinched. He doesn't hedge. He doesn't waffle. He doesn't say, well, it depends on macro conditions, or we'll see how risk appetite develops. No, he just walks out on stage, drops a number larger than the sun, and leaves traditional finance needing emotional support. But that's the contrast of today's market. Retail panic versus institutional conviction. Emotional charts versus decade-long theses. Noise versus signal. And speaking of signal, let's shift gears to something far more grounded and far more fun. Because the SENB project, yeah, it's been cooking behind the scenes, and we hit another milestone today. Let's break down the numbers, the holders, and what's coming next. Going over it all after this.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, folks, welcome to your SENB project update for Friday. Even with the wider crypto market pulling back today, SENB continued moving in the opposite direction. Upward, SENB is holding right around a market cap of $10,600 and liquidity at $6,900. We're now at 51 total holders, and the bonding curve is officially 53% complete. That means organic growth, real wallets, real momentum, no hype pumps, no flash-in-the-pan behavior. The chart continues to show steady accumulation, exactly what you want in a project designed for long-term expansion. Now, the real explosion this week happened on the media side. In the last 28 days, SENB Media pulled in 15,000 views, 91 hours of watch time, and 381 new subscribers. That is a rocket taking off, and we are still at the launch pad. Mascot of Madness crossed 12,000 views, and stacking sats is already above 700 and climbing fast. The algorithm is noticing, and it's pushing SENB harder every single day. Over on Rumble, December 4th saw 785 raw views, the strongest day yet. And on X, follower count and engagement continue drifting upward. Not explosive, not fake, just steady, healthy growth. And yes, we have to talk about Ember Vale. She stepped into the SENB universe this week and instantly elevated the entire atmosphere. The visuals, the voice, the vibe, everything hit exactly the way we hoped it would. You're going to be seeing a lot more of Ember as this world expands. And trust me, she's just getting started. Meanwhile, the rest of the crypto market? Red. Fear index at 28. Bitcoin down. ETH down. Sol down. XRP down. But SENB? Growing. Growing on chain. Growing on YouTube. Growing on Rumble. Growing on X. Growing across every metric that actually matters. That's why we always say, ignore the noise, follow the signal. All right, that wraps up your SENB project update. We're early, but the foundation is already forming. Brick by brick, clip by clip, block by block. Don't go anywhere, because after the break, we've got a special announcement involving Ember Vale, plus a look at what's coming next for the SENB universe. Don't go away, because we'll be right back.
You're listening to the Sen B Daily Brief, powered by Whole Shot Coffee.
All right, folks, I told you to stay tuned to the end of the show, and this is why. Joining us tonight is someone who has already shaken up SENB Media. Her debut track, Stacking Sats, dropped this week, and the response has been insane. And today, we're giving you the very first look at her upcoming project, Signal Through the Noise. Live from her mysterious alleyway studio, give it up for Ember Vale. Ember, welcome to the show. For people who are hearing your voice for the first time, who is Ember Vale?
Hey, I'm Ember Vale. It's nice to finally put a voice to the name.
People online were saying the same thing. She sounds different than I expected. Why do you think that is?
People usually say I sound quieter than they expected. But that's kind of the point.
Quiet can be powerful. Where does that come from?
I grew up in quiet places. So I learned to speak like someone who listens first.
All right, now we're getting into the origin story. So let me ask you this. When did music become the language?
Music was my way of saying the things I didn't always know how to explain out loud.
That checks out because your lyrics cut deep. But let's talk about your voice for a second. It's raw, textured. People are already asking if that's intentional.
If my voice feels a little rough around the edges, that's just life leaving fingerprints.
And then on your tracks, boom, that soft voice turns into a cannon.
And yeah, my singing voice gets a lot louder. But I promise it's still me.
So tell me, what is Ember Vale chasing when she sits down to create?
What I love most is creating sounds that feel like sparks in dark places. Little moments that catch and stay with you.
That line right there, Sparks in Dark Places, that's exactly the vibe of your first single. And speaking of that, ladies and gentlemen, here's a clip from her debut track, Stacking Sats.
I keep stacking Bitcoin high, fighting the banks, yeah. Watch me try. They print paper, I dig gold. Digital dreams, I'm feeling bold. Stacking sats, they can take that. Freedom code in a boat, no cap. Inflation thieves, yeah, I see the trap. Stacking sats, stacking sats.
The energy is wild. The crowd reaction online is wild. And now, the big question everyone's asking, what's next?
What's next is actually the song I'm most excited about. I'm working on the title track for the new album, Signal Through the Noise. It's the next single I'm releasing, and it kind of captures everything I've been feeling lately. That moment when life gets loud, and you're trying to find the one sound that still feels true. This one's different. It's heavier. It's more emotional. And it feels like the heartbeat of the whole album. So yeah, that's what's next. And I can't wait for you to hear it.
Ember Vale, everybody. And trust me, this is just the beginning.
Anyway, I'm happy you're here. Thanks for listening.
Her next single, Signal Through the Noise, is coming soon, and we'll be debuting exclusive updates right here on Sen B Media. Ember, congrats on the launch, and welcome to the family. All right, let's bring this home. Today was one of those days where the headlines didn't match the charts, the data didn't match the emotion, and the markets didn't match the logic. So, pretty much a normal Friday in crypto. We covered a lot. The updated PCE numbers, retail flipping from fear to greed and back again, Saylor talking trillion-dollar horizons, and that unbelievable moment where gold couldn't prove it was gold, plus a whole wave of fresh market action. And of course, Ember Vale joining us to close the week. Her new album, Signal Through the Noise, is on the way, and the title track is shaping up to be something special. If you haven't watched her video Stacking Sats yet, do it after this show. Trust me, it hits different on a Friday. As for us, the channel is growing fast. More views, more comments, more people discovering the community. So if you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here since day one, you're the backbone of this whole thing. We'll be back Monday with another full breakdown, more stories, more charts, and more signal. Enjoy the weekend, stack responsibly, and remember, the noise is temporary, the signal is forever. This has been the SENB Daily Brief. I'm Sen B'Hiro, and I'll see you Monday. The Sen B Daily Brief is a production of Sen B'Hiro Media in collaboration with Whole Shot Coffee, coffee that fuels champions. Written and hosted by yours truly, Sen B'Hiro. Production, editing, and scheduling handled by Maya Valencia, who somehow keeps me on time, caffeinated, and occasionally polite. Original theme music composed and produced by Paul Hahn, the community legend whose beats hit harder than a Fed rate hike. Research support provided by the Sen B community. Proof that sarcasm and spreadsheets can coexist. For more shows, merch, and on-chain chaos, visit senbhiromedia.com. Thanks for tuning in. Stay caffeinated. And remember, if it's not in the brief, it probably wasn't bullish anyway.
Set my wallet free.